Welcome back. I wanted to talk about social policy and why it's important. So, what is social policy? Social policy is a body of policy that's concerned with human needs for security, education, health, well-being, um, focused on the impacts and social impacts that policy has. Policies are responses to social, demographic, and economic change. And considerations include poverty, children and families, housing, employment, health and welfare. Other areas that are considered are aging, elderly policies or social policies. And so it's a really broad area of policy. So when we drill down to what is social welfare policy, those are the collective responses to social problems for the maintenance of social well-being. And so what social welfare policy is a subset of the broader field of social policy. So in the book Social Policy and Social Programs, you will read a lot about the social safety net programs that include Social Security, the food stamp program, uh, Medicaid, Medicare, many other services that your clients encounter on a daily basis. And so you can see that picture there. It's a political cartoon. And basically, what it's stating, or I think what it's implying, is that, if you work, you're paying into the Social Security system. And the future really is uncertain right now. With what is the Social Security um, system going to look like in 20 plus years? What is the sustainability? What is the health of Social Security, for lack of a better term? Um, and so, what this is implying is, we don't know. So it is a gamble. But it's going to take well-informed social workers to be at the table to advocate for a robust social safety net, and one that makes sense as well. And one of the most important or prime theories in social work is the ecological systems theory. And so this is a diagram of that. And so when we talk about really large policies like Social Security, that's really something that's derived from the macro system. This larger system out here in this outer nested circle is a depiction of the macro system. So that's society. And while we don't really think of that as impacting us directly, it does impact us. It crosses all of these systems and impacts us at the individual level. So if you work, or if you've ever worked, and you pay a regular wage, you get taxes deducted each paycheck. And within that paycheck, you do contribute a portion to the Social Security system. So you're buying into the system already, whether you know it or not. And you do have a say in that system if you do pay wages and pay those taxes. I really like this uh, infographic, what they call them. And this was developed at a conference on the political landscape. So this was a response to the 2016 elections. It was a meeting that was hosted by the National Association of Social Workers, and talks about, this to me depicts social work's role in this political landscape. And so really underscores and underscores the importance of social policy, and elevates the role of social workers and the importance of social workers in learning about policy, but also participating in the system at multiple levels, to be an advocate, to understand how the social policy environment impacts the clients that you work with. And so a really cool infographic. And there's a link to the actual report from this conference in the later slides. So why is it relevant? Because we have, and it's a really good time right now to be taking this class because there's so much going on. Seems like every day it's something new. It's always interesting. And so with the Democratic primary, the Democratic debates and the primary elections coming up pretty soon, you're seeing a lot of the candidates um, uh, release and publish their platforms around social policies. And so one of the more prominent ones that you see is the Medicare for All. So that's universal health care. And so this particular article here is on that. And Joe Biden, who's the former vice president, his stance is that people shouldn't lose their private health care or their employer provide health care insurance. They should have that option of keeping them. And so in this article here, it talks about declining enrollment in universities and the social impacts of that. And it's a really good article. I was actually listening to this on the way to work today. And I thought, wow, this is something that is relevant to us here in Arizona. And they provide quite a bit of statistics that are useful in knowing and understanding in the critical thinking that you need to do to engage in social policy analysis and advocacy. And then these two articles here are focused on a really high profile topic of immigration. And this one over here on the right is actually a radio piece, a segment on why the Trump administration wants to restrict immigration. It's basically around the use of public benefits. So that's our social safety net. And then this article here talks about the family separation that's happening at the border and the detention centers. And it's really hits at the heart of social work and the responses to this issue and the need for advocacy because you're creating and causing more harm in society by separating families in this way. So how do you respond? These are some suggestions, and we'll talk about these more in depth later, but taking the empowerment approach is really working with your clients and working alongside them, and not necessarily speaking for them, but empowering them to speak for themselves. And so taking that approach is really, to me, a real important one, because as a social worker, you really, that's a value that we have as a profession. Understanding social justice impacts. So social justice is another value that we have in the field of social work. So, what are those impacts of, changing the system? What would happen if these changes were made? And what stance should you take as a social worker on these issues when you think about it from that social justice framework? Is this a socially just approach? Being a critical thinker, analyzing and organizing facts, using data to support the positions that you have around social policy is really important. And also developing alternatives, because maybe the best alternative is not the most realistic, especially when you're talking about scarce resources, availability of money to do to be able to carry out any policy. Be empathetic work on that. We talk about this quite a bit in Chapter 1. And learn about cultural and contextual factors. So in our case here in Arizona, the context of the Southwest, and the different populations that we're working with. How do some of these policies that are being proposed, how would they impact all of the communities that we have here in the Southwest? So if you have questions, and they're generally applicable to everybody, use a question and answer form. They're more applicable to you or involving you, your grade, or any questions or needs that you have. Email those to me directly through Canvas. Next steps: review the rest of the Module 1 materials. Please take the opportunity to introduce yourself to the class, so there's a discussion board thread in Module 1 to do that. I'd love to learn more about you, your classmates, so please take that opportunity. And then the Module 1 assignment is the paragraph on social values, and that's due on September 1st at 11:59. Thank you, and good luck on your assignments, and we shall talk to you later. Bye.